Back, do it again. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? So good to see you. And welcome, everybody. Hey, it's Wednesday. And actually, I don't know about you, but it is a fantastic day, I have to say. And I hope you're doing good too. I hope everything is good with you. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, moderators, each and every one of you. David, Barry, Kaz, how you're doing? I saw your comment there. Looking forward to the video. And Susie Q, much love, dear. And hey, all the rest of you, beautiful, beautiful. Hey, Kent, how are you doing, my friend? And welcome. So good to be amongst such positive, far out people. You know, I know we all come from different backgrounds, but y'all would be the type of people I'd like to be in my youth. I had a great youth. It was horrific circumstances, but it was really a good time. My point is, y'all are the type of people who I'd love to meet at the park. And there's a particular park that used to go to down in Houston, Miller Park. Many of you who live there, you know where it is. Well, there was a time where that was just a very cool place to hang out on a Sunday. You could find your favorite mind enhancing supply if you want, but I also had an opportunity with some great bands, and y'all be the type of people I'd love to walk up with and say, how y'all doing? And sit down. We'd probably end up rapping for, who knows, probably the rest of the day, wouldn't it? Hey, Twisted Isby, how you doing? So good to see you. Debbie and Marguerite, good to see you. Angie, there's a song about you. Melissa, song about you. So anyway, let me just speak favor over all of us. Invoke favor of protection. Favor allows you, it's your, how should we say, your advanced radar system. Because, when you got favor meeting a potential negative situation, the thing that you can be assured of is that favor is permeating that situation to your good. So there you go. Hey, I am excited about this. I am about finished with the book, and Friday night, 7 p.m., be 9 East Coast, 7 West Coast. Folks, this is a phenomenal read. I am going to enjoy talking to both John and Bruce. John Edmonds is all I can say about his story is that it really does depict a new frontier in so many ways. Thought, spirit, soul, dimension, travel. Wow, it's an interesting read. I highly recommend you. I think this is out on something else other than I have it on Kindle, and I've actually ordered the book itself because I want it in my library because it's just, folks, all I got to say is, wow. I don't know how someone deals with that. That is just incredible. And we're going to get up close and personal today in this general area. Yesterday with Trina on our show, A Second Look, those shows are just groundbreaking in so many ways. I mean, I go back and listen to them because it's the flow of information is incredible. And that's all I can say. So there is like so much to do here. Where do I want to start first? Let me go over here because it kind of brings us into the intro of, what we're going to be talking about. This is, I think, probably my first introduction to the thought of, a hollow earth. Jules Verne, I swear this dude was a time traveler. It is, if you have never read his books, go and read them. They are, yeah, even if you've read them before in your youth, go back and read them again. Where this cat got his information in his imagination is quite interesting. You should read it. You really should. It's on PDF, and it gives us the background of looking at a potentially different reality. And that reality being that we surface dwellers have been, well, led to believe in a system, a perception of reality that doesn't exist. Just that simple. It doesn't exist. And there is a book that we're going to be going through probably next week. This is, I've just started it as well. It's amazing read. It's called Dead Men's Secrets. We're talking about secrets here. Seems that is the theme of the moment, secrets. And this is a story about there was a super race here. I want to get into just a little bit of this because it is, well, yeah, it's best that we're going to go to the day the earth tipped over, and we're going to read some in the prologue because, folks, something ain't right. Something just ain't right. That could be our rallying call. Something ain't right. So he talks about Professor Martin Byron in Melbourne, Australia. And this guy, this professor, was talking about something that, well, just doesn't make sense. And let me just read into this. He said he was on a scientific lecture tour. He had just stepped under the shower when a sharp tingle sent him scurrying to the bedside phone. Pasadena, California. Martin, there's been another sighting of the Black Knight. The NASA men are calling for details. Katzentz, I think it's Katzentz, yes, in Moscow is pushing for an immediate expedition to the vicinity. We want you back as soon as possible. Byron set down the receiver, so it was on again. Not sighted for 20 years, and now he snatched up the mouthpiece and dialed another number. Now, folks, this gets to be very interesting. I was still some 15 minutes away from Byron's hotel apartment, which afforded time for reflection. It was, I recalled, in October 1957, that man's most daring triumph, Sputnik 1, had been rocketed suddenly into orbit 584 miles above the Earth. With excitement mingled almost with disbelief, millions worldwide had scanned the night sky to glimpse the shining artificial moon skimming on the path east to west against the canopy of the stars. Within 4 months, America had followed suit. So, after eons of tortoise-paced development, humanity had suddenly leaped off the planet. It was startling, and we were alive to see it. Then came the bizarre discovery. It was hushed up quickly. I recalled I was now at Byron's hotel. The ignition key was off. I sat musing as tracking stations swung into action to monitor these new moons. The night sky had tossed up an awesome mystery. Another satellite was discovered already in orbit. Certainly, it was neither American nor Russian. Remember, folks, this is 1957, 56. A lot of y'all weren't born yet. And the uncanny truth was nobody else had the technology. French astronomer Jacques Vallée of the Paris Observatory saw it 3 times in 1961 and got 11 data points in 45 seconds. It seemed to be orbiting in reverse at an altitude of 22,000 miles above the Earth. Experts were jolted. Who put this satellite into orbit? And how long had it been there? I'm glad you came over, smiled the professor, offering a chair. Now, there's something for your research. I might say the Russians have the edge on us in this investigation. Lev Grindelis and Polvakovo Observatory in Leningrad concur that the Black Knight is out there waiting for us to explore its cargo. And God only knows, whatever we find aboard, it may change the course of history. I shuffled intensely. So you believe this is an intelligently placed vehicle? Well, it's not a meteor, and you can rule out space junk. Truly, the last 25 years had plunged us into something unsettling mysteries concerning our unknown past. I reminded Byron of the day in February 1961, the 13th to be precise, when Mike Maxwell, Wallace Lane, and Virginia Maxey were exploring 4,300 feet up in California's Caso Mountains and stumbled upon a fossil encrusted rock. That in itself was not unusual. But wait for this. Expecting it to be hollow, a hollow geode stone containing crystals, they broke a diamond saw on it the next day. The surprise turned wild when, instead of crystals, they found inside the rock a mechanized device resembling a spark plug. A sophisticated relic, if you please, but the riddle was its enormous age. Authorities dated it at 500,000 years. Do you see the problem, I asked? Even if we dismiss such dating, this mystical object was undeniably far too old to be explained by our conventional theories. The professor grinned. He was clearly enjoying the puzzle. Discoveries such as these do pose awkward questions, he chuckled. Tell me, Martin, scientifically speaking, is it possible that things which ought not to exist do in fact exist? Could there have been a remote era when man-made wonders were as commonplace as they are today? I'm going to stop right there, but I think you can begin to see how interesting this is. And as I have looked into the book, just to kind of give you a sneak peek of this, it's clearly something's up. Evidence shows that there was a race that was far more superior to us today in our technology, that whatever happened so eviscerated the surface that, well, very little evidence was left on the surface. But the satellite that you and I, most people are not taught about, but it's been known, that it's not ours. No human put it up there, at least the modern humans. I've shown you pictures of it. Not sure. That doesn't look to me to be 22,000 miles. So I kind of question what is being photographed there. But the fact that this satellite is in retrograde to everything else that we put up, yeah. What do you do with that? Folks, there was something else here. There was someone else's here. And it leads us right into where I have put together for you. I think you're really going to enjoy this. So I titled this As Above, So Below. I mean, Trina and I were talking. We reference this idiom to so much of whether it's consciousness, spirituality. I think consciousness is pretty cool. I'll leave it at that. Spirituality, it may be a state of consciousness. It's something that we're going to figure out. So what you see here, these are all the underground bases and tunnel entrances in the United States. Now, it's real interesting when we begin to think about all the different type of stuff we find. We are mesmerized by what's on the surface and by the stories of visitors. And now it's not a new discovery. It's been talked about for quite some time, but I think the evidence is becoming much, much more, how shall we say, evidenced. Now, I want to take a point here and watch this. I'm going to step out of the presentation because I think you're really going to enjoy this. So as he gets here, remember, I'm driving, and this is like getting a new car, you know. You're trying to figure out all the gadgetry. I want to thank the individual who sent me this today, and synchronicities, folks. That's all I got to say. Synchronicities. So this is Google Earth, and this is a overlayment of ley lines, energy lines, and it's mind-blowing. There is a gentleman over on his YouTube channel. I'll get it and repost it in this to the link. So, but again, this is Google Earth. So just check this out. Now, Friday, we're going to be talking with John and his ranch, the Stardust Ranch. Now, as I pull in here, you can see these magnetic lines, the energy lines, the ley lines. And when you start having intersections, and I learned this from the video today, it's quite fascinating. So we're going to really zoom in here. Miss Trina lives in the Phoenix area. So, and by the way, John's ranch is right up in here. We're going to get a kind of a view of it here. But what we're going to go to the west, right over here in the Mojave Desert. We're going to come in and we're going to zero in. There's Blythe, California. Wait for it, folks. So we're coming in and it's showing you right into these mountains, which, yeah. Wait for it. Wait for it. Do you see it now? Do you see that pentagon? Well, yeah. Now this gets even weirder. And I really want to thank the person who sent me this. Favor be upon you. I don't give out names unless people say so. But check this out. So we're going to go east, excuse me, and we're going to go into the Phoenix era. There we go. Here's Phoenix. And tomorrow, just to let you know, what we have is the Stardust Ranch is right up in this area up in here. In fact, if I could find what I'm looking for, I mean, that's desert, folks. That's any way you look at it. It is desert. And I know I had it here earlier, so just bear with me. There we go. So this is Buckeye. This is the nearest town. And as to where the actual ranch is, well, you pick your spot because I don't know. But let's get back to the bigger picture here. So let's pull back and let's get another view. Now we go over here. Let's go over here to Washington, right? Washington is a hot spot, folks. Look at the ley lines that come directly in to Washington, D.C., folks. Dead center. Wait for it. You see them all? Look, wait. Are you waiting for this? Holy crap! What is that? Did they know that when they built that there? Hello? Coincidence? Come on, folks. What are the freaking odds? I mean, you have to be dense not to see it. As the expression would go, a blind man would see this. Yeah. It's been enough on here, but this gets freaking fascinating. I mean, you will get lost going and making discoveries all over the freaking planet. And to see how one is connected to the other, let's just follow this line. Well, now, wait a minute. What are we doing over here? What's happening here? Could we be seeing the same freaking phenomenon? I don't know. Let's see. Did you know that this even existed? I didn't. Wait for it. Holy crap, what is that again? It's an energy line, folks. They're all over the freaking planet where these things are happening. Don't tell me there isn't anything such as 0 point energy. I think, as the gentleman that was pointing, that the designers of this, the architects, they knew. And again, let's go over here. The next one, the next really big one, is right up over here in Ethiopia. Let's wait for it. As we zero in. What? So, hey, it's put whatever you want, but this is, you begin to study, and there's others that have, and I congratulate them. This is the type of sharing of knowledge that we need to have an understanding about. And you can just go into this and try to find, again, these connecting points of these energy lines and ley lines. And yeah, and as he pointed out, by the way, I think it's 3/5 of the world's population lives within that green circle. Yeah, so anyway, there we go. Have fun with it. If you want, I'll put a link in there. I mean, what do you do with that? Seriously, it's, and you know, when I think about the Crystal Network, folks, you need to get involved with that. They're the people that are behind this. They have paid a price. Now, the energy that tried to do the harm, oh boy. Folks, let me just tell you one thing. You know why cursing is called cursing? When you curse something, understand you're actually cursing yourself. That's why curses don't work. They may have a momentary effect, but it's only momentary. The individual or the force that sent it, it boomerangs. And like any conductive energy, it amplifies back upon the one who invoked the curse. It's very bad mojo. You know, even the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, you know, he writes in there, and if you ever read the Satanic Bible, you should. It's not spooky, you know, it's just the antithesis of what you have on another religion, which, you know, religions are religions. But the point is that you never do that. And if that's the type of magic you're practicing, that's bad magic, folks. You do not, it's going to kill you. It will kill you. And so someone needed to hear that. Not good. But anyway, getting back to the Crystal Network, do you see the importance of this? Do you see the power that once you get connected into the network and you get the crystals, that makes you a part of this? And look at it. Find out where you live. Find out if you live close to a ley line. Do you live close to a magnetic line? I mean, these are the things that you can do right where you are at. And get with it, is what I say. So let's get back to where we were when we left off in the PowerPoint. So check it out, man. I mean, seriously. And what we're about to get into now begins to make sense. You know, when I first looked at this, and like I said, it's been a couple of years ago, way that the whole thing about tunnels being built. Well, as it turns out, it really is. This is the Western United States. You can see all roads come right in here to Denver. And Denver, the thing about it is, right down in Colorado Springs, it's another major intersection. In fact, NORAD's there. It's and you drive in that area in Colorado Springs, you know, you have the Monument of the Gods. It's a park you can actually go through, and amazing things. But yes, this is what we know. And as the networks have expanded, again, are you seeing the ley lines? Look how they match up. It's quite amazing when you look at and you start connecting all of these known bases. Apparently, it's hard even for the military. Now, when we talk about tunneling, it shouldn't surprise us that man has advanced to the point where he can now put the machines and build whatever he wants. It's quite amazing when you begin to realize how much we, modern man, has tunneled. I mean, we're like moles. And the question becomes, why? Why is it that we want to go underground? I mean, folks, we got the surface that we still don't know about. But under the inner earth, That is a different reality. And, you know, we've been doing this for millennia. And the basic concepts have stood the test of time. And there are now the thing with the very rich is, of course, buying into these underground bunkers. And they're opulent. They can be multi-storied. They can run in the range of over $1 billion. And some do. They're elaborate, using the latest technology to sustain human life for long intervals underground. What people who buy these are not quite understanding is that you're buying into isolation. Now, if I had that type of money, I would go in a different direction, not to have a palatial, isolated pod. I'd want to make sure that I was closely knitted to a community of pods. And that concept is gaining more and more popularity. As you find out, there, and it's interesting when you get into this subject, you can buy one of these, not that much money. Smaller, but yet on the same principle, functional. We're getting better at digging. And when you begin to realize countries like China, Russia, have vast portions of their military hardware, ships, tanks, stored in underground caverns. And when you get at certain religious sects that now have a database said to be one of the most complete in the world, all put in to the side of a mountain. Now, the rumors have been said that this connects to something else. Now, who knows? But what we do know, whether it is in the Ozarks, whether it is in places in New Jersey, whether it is in other such places, these tunnels, these facilities, in fact, do exist. This one in here, particularly as you begin to see, this is what they have found, and I believe this is in England. Again, dating back nearly 1,000+ years ago. We go underground. Today, they have now converted these into opulent, and you can actually spend a vacation there. And you can see the scale of what we're talking about in here, of all the people that are on that bridge. Some of what we have found underground is led to us in modern man. This is taking place, I believe this is, I want to say this is someplace in the United States, but I could be wrong, but I do believe it. But as you can see, the whole design of this complex is not above ground. It is below ground. In fact, as you read about some of the architects and these designing this, it's designed for such that a person literally could stay down there and never really need to go to the surface. These are the salt mines. I believe this is in Poland, I think. And you can see man is ingenious, but I think we follow so often what we have learned from whoever was here before. In the United States, this is probably one of the most interesting pictures I came across. This is one of the actual highways. Yeah. You can enter into the port outside either Baltimore, New Jersey. There are, those are the two that I know of, and literally not emerge until you get into Denver. Vast complexes, the scales that, well, for most people, it kind of defies the imagination. And of course, the rumored Delusi Wars, underground control for an underground network, an underground city. They say base. But again, the Russians, why do they have spent inordinate amounts of wealth, resources, to put their Navy underground? And we're drilling more and more. These are the DUMBs. Now we're going to find out these are deep underground military bases. And they exist in a vast network connected. Yeah, isn't it amazing what you find taking place? But these, again, are not just isolated facilities. It's quite interesting that how when you start talking about, I wouldn't call it theft, but the siphoning off of what is now estimated in this account was approximately $6.5 trillion. I've read others that this is where, in fact, the money has gone. Excuse me. Oh. Oh, man, you hate to sneeze when you're live on air, isn't it? Oh, there you go. But in any case, so these networks, it's not a mystery anymore. It's kind of like when you begin to go through the data, and the data consistently shows that in some cases, and think about this, they cross countries. If the one thing that Mexican cartels have taught the United States DEA is that they're really good at digging tunnels. We're kind of like the mole people. This is China. Now, these are actual apartments. These are, well, I wouldn't call them, I don't know what you'd call them. They're homes underground. The Chinese government has finally figured it out that, it's expensive to build up. You got all sorts of issues, environmental issues, everything else. Hold on one second, folks. I'm back. But I think it to me, it clearly shows that I think that, I think that's what the United States, this is a concept that I think may be, in fact, who knows? But you can see how this works. And you could have a small amount of the population on the surface, but the real activity is down underneath here. So I guess the question really becomes for all of us, we know that this is happening, so what is the implication here? Are there such things as, I don't know, beings that you were there? And I'm going to continue to show you. These are vast underground facilities. This one is Camp David, by the way, just to give you an idea. Has a whole power plant. You can see the commander center, the presidential suite. This is all underground. Now, you look at this and you can see the underground network. Project Daedalus is quite interesting. Again, if you notice up there, the secret, tunnels. Something's going on in Washington, D.C. There is so much construction, but, very little evidence of what we would call new buildings. It's because they're going down. They are. There are now parts of what I would call growing communities. If you have a fresh water source, and the interesting thing about underground with water is there's a more opportunity for it to be much more pure in content than what we have in waste disposal, wastewater in most communities today. And think about it. A lot of this water is coming out from deep in the earth. I did a lot of spelunking in my youth, a lot. And you get good at it. You begin to understand. You can see how how a cave, there's caves that are living and there's caves that are dead. But yet, and many of you who've ever gone in, in the United States, you have Merrimack Caverns outside of St. Louis. You've got Mammoth Caves there in Kentucky. You have Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. And you begin to think about this. Now, wait a minute. These are vast caverns. Are you telling me that they can't be connected? Well, they can. And they can be in such a innocuous looking place that you would never realize. And again, Jules Verne in his book, that this is where the dinosaurs went. I mean, there is so much that we don't know. I have read a number of books that have talked about when you get down at a certain depth, there is a light that permeates everything. It's not a bright light, doesn't need to be a bright light. It's a light, though, it's like almost dusk. Rumored that ET's down there. Actually, it'd probably be an environment that would be more hospitable to them. The Germans, they certainly believed it. The Nazis, they put a lot of assets in pursuing this. And, when you begin to look at certain aspects of the fault lines, the tectonic plate lines, it gets really interesting because it's almost like you can begin to use it as kind of a natural course. And again, it's legendary of creatures living underneath the ground. This is a picture of all the caves and caverns in the United States. All right. And look at the concentration here, by the way. You have right here in Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, going down, touching Alabama, Georgia, even in here into Western Tennessee. Now you get up into the Ozarks, lengthy point, down here in the hill country in Texas. And then as you begin to go out west along the Rocky Mountains, and as you permeate further out west, you can see how the lay of the land is. And it's interesting, as I look at this, we think about the earth and we think, well, there's the ocean, covers 3/5 of the planet. Yeah, it does. So what does that tell you? There's things that we don't understand. Our satellites are getting better. Our technology is. And when you begin to look at this, you begin to realize that there's more land mass under the water than there is on top. And as you begin to look at the topography and how, even under the oceans, how the, again, geography of how this is under there. Now you can see where I could see where Atlantis was at. I can also see that there was potentially other continents that we have no records of. And this is evidence of it right here. And the thing about it, the Earth is, it's not permanent, you know? What's pushed up in one place will eventually become submerged in the other. And so there's a complete science to this. It was said that, well, if you dig too deep, it's too hot. No, that's not necessarily true. The dynamics of the inner workings of the Earth are something we still don't know. We have hypotheses, we have theories, but no one knows for sure. And again, I just find it so interesting as you begin to lay, the Google Earth, and now begin to put this on top of this. Well, it seems to be following almost something natural. I mean, and look at New Mexico, folks. What the heck is going on in New Mexico? Colorado, yeah, I get it, but if you look at these tunnels, by the way, these are under the Rocky Mountains. You get down into the southern Rocky Mountains in New Mexico, and again, look at the base. It goes over into Mexico itself, but the complexity of the network in New Mexico says something is going on. I speculate that that is a connecting point to the tunnels that we were seeing over in the Buyushi Mountains over in Romania. It probably makes a lot of sense as well. When you look at this, look at where, I could almost see where John's Ranch is over there near Stardust Ranch. Area 51. But what's ever going on, particularly in New Mexico, is one that is hard to ascertain. And folks, it's just that most people aren't aware. They put these in two different places, out in the middle of nowhere, because the population, for the most part, has the Agenda 21 behind it. They're pushing us all in condensed urban areas. I don't want you going out there and becoming a farmer or a rancher. I don't want that. But you can see the size and the scale of this one. If you are screwing around with Google Earth, you can begin to find these. And again, notice, those are tractor trailers, folks. Again, just going into the countryside. So, let's talk about Jade Helm and Walmart. I'm going to take you back in time in the fall of 2015. There was something else that was very odd taking place during Jade Helm. Now, it still contends by the Pentagon that it was nothing more than one of the largest peacetime domestic training exercises. Jade Helm was really about something else. Not only was it about what we would call military coordination, operations in more urban settings. How do you begin to approach when you have a hot zone where you could actually see, in this case, they labeled Texas as a hostile state, and of course, Utah. So it brings in interesting points of view as to what was being really done here. But particularly in Texas, it was even more obvious. I had friends in that area that they saw fields, tanks, armor personnel carriers, and there were two concentrations, Camp Swift and Camp Pullis, as you can see. Now, those in those counties, they'll tell you the citizenry. It was like a terrorist attack. You had soldiers coming into the town and sealing the town off. I mean, it was just very interesting. But the interesting thing was the assets that were being transported across the country. It was never actually fully vetted out. Where was all this going? Large convoys. And many rumors that we put a vast amount of those assets underground. Odd. This is, by the way, the post-democracy of the United States. This is actually from Homeland Security. Pick out the zone that you live in, and you can see exactly when the time comes how your new identity cards will look like. But the fact is that the military, local law enforcement, they were using these as opportunities to see what the citizenry would react to. And we know what happened. So the Walmart stores. Why Walmart? Well, it was very interesting as I tried to look back into these. So most of these are closed. But the interesting thing was, in some of these locations, the so-called remodeling that took place was never evident. Something else was going on. What the back channel is that they found out that these serve very quickly as processing centers. And there are some rumors that with a couple of these locations, they are connected to the tunnels. Now, it's hard to say. We'll never find out about it. But yet, it appears that there is something more to this. And again, lay the networks over on this, and you can see what I'm talking about. So, this leads us right into tomorrow because I don't have enough time to get into it, but we're going to get into a book, a document actually, that lists every one of the known and sometimes unpublished areas, and you can determine how close you live to it and how close you don't live to it. But anyway, it's very clear that there's too many coincidences, too many layers upon layers, that when you look at this, there's a pattern. To me, I think it's a very clear pattern. And again, are we talking about cataclysmic cycles here? Is there an anticipation of something? The moving of assets, the building? I contend this is where probably a vast amount of the missing money in the U.S. Treasury has gone to. It's not cheap to put these in there, but again, they've been building these for a while. And who knows? So, yeah. Yeah, it is kind of, what Jesse Ventura would actually try to show. But, the thing about it is, you have a layman like myself, and, here I am just, sometimes I go into the dark web and you can get information that you can't get in a normal search engine. But you start pulling up some of these documents and you're going, Now, why did they build that there? But I can see that there is yet a natural line that's going there. Is there something connected in here? I don't know. One thing I will say that under the Obama administration, there seemed to be a mad rush in a lot of these projects. The greatest con that was ever put on the American people was the, what do we call the TARP, 2009. $1.9 trillion, and it never went anywhere for the people. It went to build something, yeah. We know. And it gets very strange. Well, thank you, David Barry. You just are a blessed man. So anyway, like I said, I want to get into this next part, but we'll do it tomorrow. And on Friday, I think we're really going to be ready for the interview with John and Bruce. Folks, I just got to tell you, I was up till pretty late last night reading, and it ties in. It's just all being presented to you as a recipe. And when you look at these lines that go across, folks, those are energies. There's something there. Something that we haven't grasped yet. Our science is, either it has and it hasn't been let out to the people, which typically happens. But there's enough smart people like us, many that have been trained in academia, who have awakened, and they're going, now, wait a minute, there's something here. Tesla, who was Tesla? Nikola Tesla was just an inventor, an observer. And he found the secrets that got him killed. Okay. Hasn't this been fun? Of course it has. And let me tell you, this vast network underground, something's up. You don't spend that kind of money. You do not keep it so sectioned off from the mainstream masses. You're dumping enormous amounts of resources into it. Why? Folks, there's going to be a part two to this. There are cities down there. The largest one I've heard to date is almost 10,000 people. 10,000 people in a community is a good-sized community, folks. The question is, what are they doing? What's the commerce? What's the engine, the occupation? I don't know. I'd like to know. Maybe we will find out. I don't know. I'll guarantee you other countries are doing the same thing. The Russians, they've been doing this. In fact, I remember Putin boasting by the fact that if there was ever an exchange between the U.S. and Russia, the citizenry of Moscow will be down underground within 10 minutes. The entire population of Moscow. They have it completely finished and adding to it. I don't know of any city in the United States. When I was growing up, ladies and gentlemen, we had fallout shelters. When you would go into a city like New York City, any other city, every city and community was required to have a fallout shelter. Obviously, in the more denser urban areas, you would have larger fallout shelters. And I can remember as a child, always seen them. I grew up in the area of duck cover and hold your ass, And that's just how serious we thought the bombs are going to drop. But today in the United States, we don't have fallout shelters. They've abandoned them. Our country, our government, no longer sees the necessity of protecting its citizenry. Why? Because apparently they have an A-list that will be shuffled underground and apparently have the ability to ride out whatever it is. That sucks. Say what you want about the Russians, but at least they have the compassion to save their citizenry. Unlike the United States, they're going to let our ass just hung out here and, what can we say? All right, folks, I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. And it's a strange place, isn't it? All right. Peace to you. All right. Bye-bye.